I'll start things off and then I'll pass things to Mara, but I'll say it's good afternoon here in Eastern Ontario. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you today. It's great to see so many familiar faces, and for those of you that I haven't had a chance to get to know yet, I breed and rotationally graze and direct market rare heritage Tunis sheep and rotationally graze hogs north of the city of Ottawa, um, in the Lower Ottawa Valley, also known as Local 362 here in Eastern Ontario. We also grow our own forage and cereals for our livestock. So 2020 was the year when every Canadian realized what we in the NFU already know, that our food system is fragile and we must have local producers in combination with our export-oriented farmers to supply Canadians who, of course, scrambled to find local food sources at the beginning of the pandemic. At the same time that consumers wanted local food, we were fighting various governments for farmers markets and direct sales to be declared essential services at the start of the pandemic, which looked shaky at first when government officials were seeing farmers markets merely as social gatherings. But we prevailed, and I'd like to extend thanks to all of you who added your voices to that campaign. Meanwhile, many of us were pivoting to online sales, including direct from the farm and farmers markets. And holy cow, did farmers learn a lot of online skills in the past year, in addition to all of our Zoom endeavors. Unfortunately, 3 temporary farm workers died in Ontario this year as a result, or this past year as a result of COVID, including Bonifacio Eugenio Romero. The NFU spoke out for worker safety and against the conditions which often prevail in the living quarters and working environments of these migrant workers. Our own members were able to provide a different picture of the good employment that's possible for foreign farm workers, and we were invited by the federal government to participate in their internal invite-only consultation on the revamp to the requirements of the Seasonal Agricultural Foreign Workers Program, where Jen Fenning is now ably representing the positions of the NFU to decision makers. The consultation phase on these new requirements is now over, and we're monitoring the new requirements for farmers, as well as the circumstances around which workers are being brought in for 2021, since many of the countries that they come from are currently unfortunately, relatively uncontrolled COVID hotspots. Meanwhile, in New Brunswick, Premier Higgs blocked foreign workers from entering the province entirely at the beginning of the pandemic. He said that farmers there could simply hire high school students to work on their farms. As you can imagine, this did not turn out very well. It was pretty disastrous to start the year off for farmers there, and NFU New Brunswick fought this tooth and nail. It's yet another example of the devaluation of the complexity of skills required on the farm. And thankfully, he backpedaled after it became clear that he was very wrong. So after an anxiety-ridden start to the season with a lack of labor from local to international, many NFU members found just enough labor to manage. Direct marketers faced a surge of demand and were busy increasing production, going online, finding new markets, and still scrambling to find labor who would stick around. 2020 found the NFU involved in federal and provincial roundtables on COVID response, sometimes for a fair stretch, 3 times a week, meeting with Minister Bibeau and federal staff and provincial inspection personnel, speaking out against the consolidation in meat processing industries, the resulting shutdowns that we've all heard so much about, as well as speaking out for provincial abattoirs and new approaches for all steps of the livestock sector. We were calling as recently as September and October for fixes and changes to COVID programs, including CEBA, the Canadian Emergency Business Account. We called for changes to the Emergency Processing Fund and to agri-stability programs. Just the week before the lockdown started, I was testifying to the House of Commons Ag Committee on desperately needed changes to fix an agri-stability program that's fundamentally broken. Now many provinces and the feds have reached a deal to give farmers the changes we're asking for. Even Ag Minister Ernie Hardeman here in Ontario is on board, and we're still actively pushing for the prairie governments to get on board with the changes and not keep holding farmers hostage. Unfortunately, we lost two beloved leaders in the NFU, Corey Olica and Peter Dowling, and we miss them still. We're very grateful for their wisdom and friendship over the course of many years, and hope that we're able to carry on their legacy. We developed and promoted a vision for a post-COVID food system. We committed to work to combat racism and are very glad for membership within the NFU that has created a new BIPOC, or Black, Indigenous, and People of Color working group from among our farmer membership. The NFU called for universal childcare and pharmacare, and while we're still looking for solid action, hopefully some actual spending coming out of this upcoming budget, we did see some response to our advocacy, and language that the NFU had submitted was included in the most recent speech from the throne back in September. We stood in solidarity with farmers in India as they fight the corporatization of their agriculture system. We fought against the creation of Seeds Canada, which would have eliminated the seed growers' independent collective voice by setting up a governance structure and fee schedule designed to exclude independent seed growers over time. Indeed, we've written a letter of complaint to the federal government that even the name Seeds Canada is an illegitimate attempt to give this corporate money grab the veneer of government backing. The fight goes on, of course. This is a long-term battle, and as some of you may know, we found out yesterday that the U.S. Wheat Associates, otherwise known as the U.S. Wheat Lobby, are now making noises about launching a challenge under CUSMA to our variety registration system, saying that it is an overly burdensome barrier to their ability to market grain internationally via Canada by accessing the CGC grading system under the provisions of CUSMA, otherwise known as exactly what the NFU was warning about, and when CUSMA was rushed through the House of Commons and the Senate last year as part of the initial COVID shutdown. I'm not going to get too far into the weeds on this, partly because Kathy Holtzlander and many of you are far more expert than I am in matters of the CGC. But if this interests you and you are not yet a member of our Seeds Committee or Trains and Grains, please get engaged to find out more information. We advanced work on climate change and agriculture, including our participation in the Farmers for Climate Solutions Coalition. On a staffing front, in addition to our awesome permanent staff with Joan, Bev, Kathy, and Darren in the Saskatoon office, and Mara based out of Kingston, we were able to tap into a slew of internships. Young, smart farmer interns have been fantastic to build energy and connections in BC and Alberta, and to help us pull off a fabulous online national convention for the first time ever, as well as populate great Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts, and secured an interview with David Suzuki on how the NFU has completely changed his previous views on agriculture. Little side note, I heard he did a big CBC interview with Neil Young in the past week and sang the praises of NFU farmers who are doing the right thing for the environment. We also created the Pandemic Can't Stop Us campaign and tackled regional issues like building partnerships to oppose the Site C Dam in BC, open mountaintop removal coal mines in Alberta, cuts to ag extensions in Manitoba, as well as the engaging in protests against their new anti-freedom of assembly legislation that's proposed that will curtail the ability of people to protest in Manitoba. And of course, as you know, the massive Lake Diefenbunker irrigation project in Saskatchewan. So I also want to personally add my gratitude for the hardworking crew in Region 6, longtime board members who've served this past year, Dixie Green, Stuart Wells, Rochelle Tournier. The NFU wouldn't be the NFU without folks like you to members who served in the past, like Glenn Tate, thank you very much. You know, Al Burchard has stepped up in the past year and brought great enthusiasm to his work. Lyle Orchard, your work with and at the IPC has been fantastic. Betty Tournier Daniels, you know, your enthusiasm and organizing has been great, especially coordinating the Engaged Elders social group. I haven't yet had a chance to work with or meet Julie Maxwell, but my mom was a Maxwell, so I'm sure we've got another connection somewhere. I'm really looking forward to working with all of these folks throughout 2021 and beyond. And also to thank you for your really strong participation in the NFU Days membership work. I know there's people that I've missed here, but I'll count on others to recognize them if I've missed anyone. But for all of our board members across the country who are engaged in policy work, you know, they work on the resolutions that we pass at the National Convention. They work on updating internal policies and procedures to help get the NFU firing on all cylinders for years to come, and of course, engaging and recruiting new members to help amplify our message. So I will turn things over to Mara at this point, and I'm happy to answer questions folks might have after.
Thank you, Katie. I guess we can hold questions, I guess, until I give you a bit of an overview on 2021. But I want to take a pause and just say what great leadership Katie is providing. You can hear from how she's speaking extemporaneously that she is deeply involved in so many of these issues with great intelligence, as is our staff and our many members who are so very active. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mara Shaw, and I just joined, I just joined the staff last year as the executive director. I've been a member for, probably 5 years, an associate member, ever since Diane Dowling invited me to join. And NFU is really, as Darren Qualman always says, the best organization in the country, and I certainly hold that to be true. So thank you, Katie, for the wonderful 2020 review and for continuing to lead the NFU. And I get the privilege of telling you a bit about what we're doing in 2021. Rebecca is gonna advance my slides. And I guess before we do that, I do wanna take a second and thank Rebecca Miller and Suleiman Adam, who are the two staff people that are helping at this convention. They'll come up a little later as well. This is Rebecca's last day on her internship with the NFU, and we will miss her enormously, but here she goes, advancing my slides. Rebecca, when I say ding, I guess you can advance. So in 2021, we found 1 year of funding to hire a communications and membership coordinator, who is Suleiman Adam, who I just mentioned. He has started a weekly bulletin that is jam-packed with information. It goes out every Wednesday. If you're not receiving this bulletin, please check your spam or your promotions inbox. It may be going straight to those inboxes. And if you don't see them there, please call or email the office to make sure you're on the mailing list. It is honestly the one weekly organizational email that I look forward to every week, with lots of great updates on agricultural issues. So please get on that list. In 2021, we're going to continue that. And you can expect to see a lot of work on agricultural policy with our NFU member committees and our two professional agricultural policy experts on staff, Kathy Holtzlander and Darren Qualman, both of whom are here today. Some of the policy issues that they will be addressing this year with our very active committees include DING, the Seed Sovereignty, Seeds Act, and Seeds Canada. All of the seed issues that Katie was talking about earlier are of hugely high priority for the NFU. Ding, slide. There will be lots of action on livestock and abattoirs this year. The chair of the Livestock Committee is Tim Dowling, and he is joined by NFU National Vice President of Policy, Julia Smith, who is also the president of the Small Scale Meat Producers Association of British Columbia. The committee is dynamic and working in collaboration with the Climate Committee to provide climate-friendly data that the federal government wants to support efforts to revitalize local and regional food systems. That committee has also just hired a new livestock policy researcher on a very short contract, but her name is Janice Levangie, or Levangie. I struggle with that name. She is compiling livestock policies from provinces and territories across the country, and will develop a plan for improving access to abattoirs and other livestock related issues over the next couple months. So if livestock is your thing, you should be joining that livestock committee. Ding. In 2021, you will also see more work on farmer income through work with allies on universal basic income, work on agri-stability and other government programs to make sure that they work for more small and medium-sized farms. More work on seed and trade issues, farmland access and ownership, regional food systems and farm labor. More work deconstructing racism in farming, including the work of the newly formed BIPOC working group, and a serious approach by an anti-racism working group that many young NFU farmers are very active on, and more connections with labor unions on points of common purpose. Ding. Our climate work remains a huge policy focus forward, moving forward in 2021 and beyond. We have a number of new policy resolutions around practical climate and agricultural issues coming out of our 2020 convention. And other work that Darren Qualman and his climate committee are leading. Ding. The recent launch of the Imagine If report, it's a vision of near zero emission farm and food systems for Canada, has just been launched last week. That report is available on our website, and I'll put the link in the chat when I get off speaking. It's a wonderful, hopeful vision for what could happen if we started to make changes on our farms and around the world, globally, right now. Ding. We've also had very well coordinated meetings with Ag and Agri-Food Canada Minister Bibeau about climate solutions. And Rebecca Miller and Darren Qualman have set up a campaign of meetings with MPs, senators, and committee chairs about climate-friendly agriculture and what the NFU wants to see. You'll note on here that we're making a huge effort to make sure that we're conversing in both French and English, depending on what MPs and ministers want. That has just been wrapped up as Rebecca is finishing, but has reached, I think, well over 20 MPs over the last month. Ding. You'll also see more opportunities to learn and connect with NF University. There are 2 courses coming up in April that I want you to know about. And these are all free courses that you can just drop in on. I highly recommend them. Darren and Kathy are making sure that the speakers are some of some of North America's top speakers on these issues. April 8th is fossil fuel free farming. Thanks for that title, Darren. Fossil fuel free farming, solar power, electric tractors, and the future. And on April 29th, Kathy's leading the Post-Animal Agriculture and the Future of Farming, AKA Fake Meat talk. So don't miss those. Ding. Slide 29. Oops, sorry, I shouldn't read that. Our monthly Engaged Elders Social Hour is for older members, and it is co-hosted by your very own Betty Tournier-Daniels and Marcella Peterson. Older NFU members get to talk together and talk about issues, wide-ranging issues, from farm succession to abattoirs to the younger generation to crafts. So please join in on those as you're able and interested. Ding. The Youth Caucus is creating a series of podcasts on food and farming issues with young farmers across the country. And they're taking such a serious approach to creating these podcasts with a story arc in each episode. So we're really looking forward to those coming out. Any youth on this call are encouraged to get connected with that Youth Caucus. Ding. The Women's Caucus just started meeting with their first meeting earlier this week, but they have great energy and enthusiasm moving forward. So that will be a good working group. Ding. I just want to note that we couldn't do any of this without a great staff supporting the members and all of the membership leadership work that they're doing. And here are most of them on the screen. You'll see our own Joan Lang is caught mid-laugh, and I apologize to Joan, but I think it's lovely. Ding, and the last slide, please let us know how we can help. You are the NFU, and we, the staff, are working for you. So stay in touch, stay active, and continue demanding a farm system that sees each one of us as valuable, both for our production and for our humanity. Oh, one last slide, actually, ding. I just want to thank you. We need each one of us to participate in building membership. And so I invite you to think of one or two other people you know, farmers or non-farmers, tell them about the NFU and invite them to join, but also accept my gratitude for all the years of leadership that many of you have shown. And for those of you who are new, thank you for joining us.